Good evening, you're tuned into Bizworld. Malaysia's exports hit a new high of 131.6 billion ringgit last March, surpassing the 100 billion ringgit mark for the 7th consecutive month since September last year. Imports has also surpassed the 100 billion ringgit mark for the first time ever, while total trade for the month reached a new high of 236.6 billion ringgit. Trade surplus widened by 10.3% to 26.7 billion ringgit, marking the 23rd consecutive month of trade surplus since May 2020. Now, the rise in exports was attributable mainly to higher exports to Singapore, Japan, South Korea, the European Union and China. The expansion of export was driven by electrical and electronics products, petroleum products, palm oil-based agriculture products, liquefied natural gas and crude petroleum. Additionally, China was a key contributor to the increase in imports, followed by Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, Indonesia, Singapore, the United States and Thailand. The National Rail Centre of Excellence (NRCOE) will be established upon receiving cabinet approval in 1 or 2 months' time. According to the Secretary General of Transport Ministry, Dato' Isham Ishak, its main objective is to increase local content in the rail industry, which is a far cry of below 15% currently.
Rail Centre of Excellence ni sebenarnya dalam proses di mana ia tidak lama lagi akan diluluskan oleh Kabinet. Walaupun belum diluluskan lagi, tetapi kerja-kerja untuk persediaan telah dilaksanakan dan setakat ini pun kita dah ada 14 syarikat tempatan Malaysia yang berupaya untuk mengeluarkan barangan-barangan kereta api. Contohnya dari segi HV sistem, aircon, dari segi cermin, tempat duduk.
This centre is expected to grow local participation to 30 rail-linked companies within 10 years via training, coaching and exposure. It will also be tasked to come up with the country's very own Malaysian standard for the rail sector. Currently, the local rail industry depends on the standards from China and Western countries. The aim is also for Malaysian companies to export their rail industry components to countries such as within ASEAN. Gold prices gained, touching their best level since mid-March as the Russia-Ukraine crisis drove investors to the safety of bullion. Spot gold was up 0.5% at about 8,411 ringgit per ounce, its highest since March 14th. Today's rise followed a second straight weekly gain for gold, restraining advances in zero-yield gold. Yields on the benchmark 10-year U.S. Treasury note firmed to their highest since December 2018. Bullion is considered a safe store of value during times of political and economic crisis, as well as a hedge against inflation. Oil prices rose today as concerns grew about tighter global supply, with a deepening crisis in Ukraine raising the prospect of heavier sanctions by the West on top exporter Russia. Brent futures were up 1.3% at $113 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate futures rose 98 cents to almost $108 a barrel. Ahead of Easter weekend holidays, both contracts gained more than 2.5% on news that the European Union might phase in a ban on Russian oil imports. EU government said last week the bloc's executive was drafting proposals to ban Russian crude. However, diplomats said Germany was not actively supporting an immediate embargo. History suggests that the Federal Reserve will face a difficult task in tightening monetary policy enough to cool inflation without causing a U.S. recession. According to Goldman Sachs, the odds of a contraction at about 35% over the next 2 years. The Fed's main challenge is to reduce the gap between jobs and workers, as well as to slow wage growth to a pace consistent with its 2% inflation goal, by tightening financial conditions enough to reduce job openings without sharply raising unemployment. Achieving a so-called soft landing may be tough because historically large declines in the gap in the U.S. have only occurred during recessions. That's all the time we have for Bizworld this evening. I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for investing your time with us.